Okay. Okay, this is Dynamics Collaborative CLC project. I'm Jacob Brandon.
I'm Joseph Viagran.
The assignment prompt we were given is that we work for NASA and we develop O-rings used in space travel. The sealing capacity of the O-rings is dependent on the temperature of the O-rings at launch time. These O-rings will not hold a seal if they are below 55 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's going to be our T-min. The expected environmental temperature at our time of launch is only 60 degrees Fahrenheit, so not very much above this T-min that we have set. And given this information, we want to decide whether or not to recommend launching or canceling the launch. And those are our two options, whether or not we continue with launching the spacecraft or whether we decide to cancel it. And cancel. So with these two options, we have success and a failure in this continuing launch. Failure of the launch would mean that the O-rings malfunction and the temperature at the time of launch affected their sealing capacity. And that's something that is not good towards the project or towards the spacecraft launching and going into space. With that malfunction, that would cause an explosion to the spacecraft most likely, and something that is not really what is designed to happen. The spacecraft would either blow up in just in the Earth traveling part of the air or in space, where it would definitely be catastrophic. But either way, it's not good, and we would consider it failure if these O-rings do not seal. So if this did happen, there'd also be the hit to the NASA reputation. NASA has overall always had a good reputation with their spacecraft and how they design all their spacecraft, their engineering, their development of projects and technology. It is always very clear, and it does the job that they want it to do. And if something were to fail, that would reflect on NASA and what their reputation is, and people would begin to look at them in a bad way, I guess is one way to say it. With the explosion of the aircraft, wasted materials is something that is very high on the list of failures, because they cost so much and a spacecraft costs so much money to build and so much time to build. If it were to fail, the amount of cost would be very high in this kind of material portion that we dedicated the failure to. Materials, not only does it cost a lot of money, but it also affects the human lives that are at stake and the people that are behind all of this project. If there was an explosion to happen and people were lost in this accident, it would kind of go against what Christians believe as a value of stewardship, where they believe that the human life is of utmost importance, and the value of safety is also extremely important in kind of making ideas and making decisions about whether or not to do stuff, and relating it to Christianity in that sort of way. After this failure, the other option is success. If we continue to launch and the O-rings do work at this 60-degree temperature, there would be a success factor to look at. With this success factor, if it were to happen, the nation morale would be boosted. People look at spaceships and space travel as a good thing and something that they want to look forward to. And in the past, this has proven to be true, just with like the old spacecraft expeditions and going to the moon. So something like this would hopefully improve the nation morale overall. Other successes or like parts to this success could be the NASA investments. With their investments, NASA is increasingly making new and exciting technology, and if something like this were to succeed, where people would look at it as a good thing, they would hopefully want to continue to invest in NASA and increase their production and increase their technology of what they can do. So I think that's something that's just a success overall.
All right, so Jacob went over kind of the outcomes of continuing to launch. I'll go over the what could happen if we cancel the launch. There's kind of two main categories that could happen. There's risks of canceling, and then there's rewards. Going into the risks, the big one is a hit to NASA's budget. They would have to now, if they choose to cancel the launch, that inevitably turns into delaying it to another time, which then means that you just got to budget for a new launch time and figure out the logistics of that. And they have also with that they have to wait until the weather is better. So if they decided not to launch at 60, then they probably want it better than higher than 60 degrees outside. The other risk is loss of shareholders. And this kind of goes with the investment side, where NASA would get more investments if the launch is a success. If they choose not to launch, they would lose shareholders and investments. And that's just due to the fact that if you put your money and trust into something happening and it doesn't actually happen, then it gets delayed, you begin to lose trust if it'll actually happen in the first place. Now let's talk about rewards. The rewards of canceling the launch is increase in public trust. And this goes with the moral side of the decision. If they decide to take into account all the risks of failure, and they say it's too high, we value human life, we don't want to waste materials, and we want to keep our reputation high, we want to actually cancel the launch so we don't risk all those bad things, then people would trust NASA a lot more. It might increase their shareholdings or investments into them. And yeah, so that's the rewards. One thing we wanted to mention is a little historic example where NASA had a space shuttle Challenger exploded in 1986. And in that failure, they had a very similar situation where the temperature was expected to be very close to the minimum temperature that the O-rings can handle at time of launch, and they decided to go with it anyway and disregard engineers in NASA who gave advice against launching the spaceship shuttle. So with that example and all the reasons we gave, evaluating the two decisions, we recommend against launching the space shuttle.
Yeah, we think that just the amount of failure and how much like that failure holds is way more than the amount of success that it would hold if they were to launch. So that's kind of what we end our decision off of, and that's why we recommended against launching the spacecraft, just because it was not worth it to the human life and the Christian worldview that we mentioned, and just the overall, I guess, where the project wanted to go. That's it. Thank you.